Hello, welcome to COG 376 assignment number 1. In this video, I'm going to do basically talk about the assignment so you know what it is. I'll show off a little bit of a demo up front so you can see how the program that you're going to be writing is supposed to work. And then we're going to do a full walkthrough. It's up to you if you want to try it on your own first or if you just want to follow along with the walkthrough. Either way is fine. The idea is to get you doing these things and not necessarily to judge you on things before you've actually learned them. So let's get into it. Let me first just start sort of with a cold. I'm just going to open. So this time I'm going to use the locally installed Python editor called idle. I'll show you a little bit. There's an easy walkthrough on how to install Python on the python.org site. But this should look familiar. I opened up idle. It starts right up with a shell. So x equals 4, x, hey, what's up? Print hello world. Our friend, the shell. Okay, so it's working. It's here. We can also, I'm going to the top. I don't share the bar up there. Recent files. I'll open this recent file, and this is what we're going to actually build together in this assignment. But don't focus on this. You don't need to try and copy it down right now. We're going to rewrite this from scratch, but I just want to show you what it does. So at the top, you can hit run, and you can run the module. F5 also does it. So what is this program? This program is a little sort of text analyzer. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it does some of the things we've already talked about for any sentence a user enters. So enter a sentence. There's the classic, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Hey, okay, so what it's spitting out is it's printing the number of characters in that sentence, the number of words in it, the average word length. Easy enough. We have transformations of that sentence. So the sentence entirely in lowercase, entirely in uppercase, title case. These are the ones that were baked in, right? But we've also done, I've written 2 custom commands here, custom functions that allow us to reverse the sentence letter by letter, word by word, and also I've included the mock case, which you encounter quite a lot in the internet. Mock case is another case, and it's just alternates up and down capital and lowercase letters to make it sound like you're mocking someone. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, right? So that's what we're going to do today. And this will just keep taking sentences. I think your dog is pretty neat. Okay, different number of characters, different words, just shows us all the transformations. And what we're getting at here is this is not quite a chatbot, and it's also not quite a strong language model, right? But it's kind of playing at the edges of both of those things. So the idea here is you're going to implement something like this, like we're going to really do it, and then we're going to, you'll have those tools in your belt so that as we learn and look at other things, other tools, other packages, you'll have a stronger understanding of how they work, even if you don't always spend all of our time down here in the weeds. Also, finally, blah, blah, blah. That's just a single word. I guess it's 2 because it split it. That's silly. Here is a cool sentence. That is not that cool of a sentence. Here's a cool sentence, right? Okay, and then finally, if you enter an empty string, we have it kill it. So, all that shown, get out of here. This is it. So I'm gonna kill idle, and we're going to open a fresh new one. So that's the quick intro of what you're gonna do today. Now I'm gonna just walk through the assignment itself on my webpage as per usual. Well, not usual yet, I guess, for this being assignment 1, but things are hosted there. So you've seen the program. Quick dropping in that things that we've already discussed that you'll practice in this is accessing items and strings and lists, right? You have to look at each letter sometimes. If else statements, for loops, while loops, input and output using the input function and the print function, writing our own functions with the arguments and the return values. And then there's a few new bits that we'll talk about. So I'm going to show you how to check even and odd for numbers, because think about that. For mock case, you have to alternate up and down, right, for each letter. You can do that with this modulus operator, which can help you check for evenness. I'll show you how as we go do the walkthrough. A little bit of formatting. So you saw that the text was nice and clean. So we're going to use the tab escape character and new line escape character in the strings that we're working with. We're going to build some strings. So we're going to start with an empty string, just two quotes next to each other. And we're going to construct a new string inside of it. So using this plus equals command, which is very useful. Not command, it's an operator. So it's like equals. It assigns a new value, but instead of replacing the old value, it adds a new one on top. Again, I'll show you how all that works. And then we're going to make our functions a little more flexible with those optional arguments. We actually did talk about it a little bit, but we'll see how it's applied here. And then we're going to make the program a little more elegant overall, we're going to use some clever use of returning values. So in our main program, we need to check, see, oh, is this an empty string? If that is, I'm gonna exit with a hey, we're done code, right? So you'll see all that. So a quick rundown of the program is you'll run your script, right? Not from the command line in this case. I need to edit that, but you'll run your program script in idle, and it will prompt the user. We'll show how to write this prompt, and then the user will enter a sentence, and your system will print each one of these out all in a row. Some of these require us to write our own code, our own special stuff, while others just use baked-in things like to lowercase, to uppercase, to title case, those things. And then it loops, asking for more input until the user enters an empty string. So your job is to write all the code that does the stuff between input from the user and output back to the command line, the terminal. So, reload this page. Also, this will change location, so don't focus on that yet. Okay. What you'll do is one of two things to get into a position where you can start writing a script. You'll either go to python.org and install the latest version of Python, which is 3.9 at the time of writing here, or you'll go back to that program is online editor we used, which, again, it's a little janky. We saw it kind of mess with me while I was recording our last demos, but it still works, right? If you are stuck in a place where, say, you have a Chromebook and you can't for the life of you figure out, the guides on how to install things on your Chromebook, you can just go ahead and use this. I would recommend, though, if you do use this, make sure you have a text editor open so you can copy things over and save it now and then, because who knows if this website will, reload suddenly. So be careful. Record your stuff. Save your stuff all the time. Okay, so what is all this? So the first thing is get ready to program, and I'll just go ahead and do that. When you install, in fact, I'll show you when you install Python. Let me show in Finder. It will install with a few tools. The one that we're looking for is idle. Idle is ultimately just a text editor and a shell connected to each other. Normally, you can do that on your own using your own whatever text editor you care to use and the terminal. So I'll even show you right alongside each other. This is just a text editor over here on the right. I'll close idle for now. And this is a terminal. And together, you write your script here and you run your code here. You can even open Python. You can even have two terminals open, right? And I can see Python, print hello world, right? Yay. So that's that's a terminal. That's a text editor. That is what you need to succeed in programming. There are other tools that help you with other cool things on the side, but all in all you need is a place to write your code and a place to run it. Just want you to understand that before we go into the nitty gritty of specifically using idle. So, and that should look familiar too. Oop, too small. This is a text editor. It's a little bit janky. It's running in the browser. And this is the shell. This is where the code is run, right? Editor to save the code you want to run, and shell to run it. We're going to close this out because it's probably draining my battery, honestly. So, okay. So what are we writing? How do we make a program like this? We're going to write 3 separate functions and 1 main loop. So let's just talk about each of these a little bit before we dive in. Well, hang on. So follow along with this video if you like, and you'll submit the text of your script however you want. You can just copy paste it directly. You can save it as a text file, a Python file, everything is fine this time around. So you'll submit it on Blackboard. So yeah, let's get into the walkthrough part. So I'm going to show you, let's make it slightly a little bit bigger. All right. So what are you writing to make this happen? You need to write, we need a loop that's going to make the thing just continue to ask for input, right? We're going to need, we can do this any number of ways, but what I'm assigning you to do is write 3 different functions, because these are about the right size for what we're trying to do. Analyze text is going to take the text that the user writes and chop it up and spit it back out in the same way we saw in the demo part, right? We're going to write the words stats with these dashes. We're going to write the character count, word length, average length, right? And then we will do all that. But in so doing, while that function is running and printing things out one at a time, eventually it gets to a point where it needs to run this custom code. So we're going to write 2 other functions. We're going to write one for reversing a text string and one for writing things in mock case. So let's do it. Let's just get in there. So here is idle shell. This is where we can test out Python code and also where we can run our script as well. So let's, I'm going to open a new file. So it can be hard to tell them apart, because they're just black on white, right? The one that has the triple arrows is the shell. It's waiting for you to type things, right? And the one that is just like a text editor is your text editor. So let's do some of these things. We can talk about each one in turn. Couple of notes before we dive into programming something from scratch. I have some ideas down here. First one I want to say is working non-linearly. So you are not going to write the script for any program front to back, top to bottom. You're kind of going to write it inside out, right? You're going to write pieces of it that work, make sure they work, save them, put them in little functions, right? And then you will move things around, you'll edit things, we'll do all that today. So I just want you to know, we're not going to just run down and copy a script that I've already written. We're going to write it from the ground up. And what are we trying to do? So first thing, let's get that loop going. So one note is the final loop needs to come at the end of the script. This is why I'm talking about nonlinearity, right? After all the functions have been defined, then you will write the loop that calls the other functions over and over, right? So this is where we'll get the input, call the analyze text function that we will write. For now, though, let's just do just a super dumb loop. So let's see, while true. Also, idle will handle the indentation for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 is the default number of spaces, which is nice. So after you open a block of code, it will auto indent for you. Very nice. It's very useful. So, while true, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do user input. We need to grab that, right? So we can just say user input is going to be the result of the input function. But what do we want to say to the user? Well, if we look up, we can see exactly what I said here. Enter a sentence, colon, and we've actually carriage returned. Interesting. So how do we do that? Well, enter a sentence. In fact, let's do this down in the interpreter so we can play with it and see what it does. Enter a sentence, and then, we want to do, a bracket, right? The greater than symbol. Well, one small detail here is that that's actually not on 2 lines. It doesn't have to be. It's fine. It doesn't matter. But remember, we're trying to present something to the user that is very clear, right? So we would like a new line in there so that it carries down. And remember that it doesn't care. It's already done. It's already printed out the prompt for us. Now it's just going to take whatever the user says and spit it back out, right? So instead, we can do input, enter a sentence, colon, and then the new line character, \n. And then I'll give a little space too so it's clear where the input starts. So input, enter a sentence, \n greater than. Do it. Hey, here is the thing. Cool. So that is how we can achieve some of this, nice clean text stuff going on. So let's do it. Let's just copy what we know works right out of here and put it up in here. And now what this is going to do, oops. Actually, I should save. Let's go ahead and save it somewhere. I'm going to go in here, and assign demo. It's saved as a Py file. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is a Python script. Now, if I run this file, this is just going to loop forever, taking the inputs and doing nothing with them. So at least right now, we can make it do something like print user input. Okay, great. So, I want to run it, right? So run the module. We can use F5, or you can open the run menu. Enter a sentence. Here is a thing. There is another thing. Okay, it's doing it. Hey, we've got the main loop going. Now, there is something else to this. We want the main loop to exit when there is a when there's a string that is empty, when the user input is empty. So let's do it. Well, wait, how do we track that? So we need something that's accessible when the while loop goes to check if it's time to go again, right? So before we start the while loop, we can define a variable called keep going equals true to start, right? That's good. Okay, so user input, we get it. We grab the user input. We can then ask the question, if user input equals. So this is a new feature that we haven't talked about yet. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing wrong with the parens. In Python, you don't do parens around these kinds of keyword things. So you just do if this is true. So equal is checking to see if something is the same as, right? So is something 10 or not 10? It works with strings as well. So if this is empty, we want it to exit. So how does it exit? Well, we're going to set keep going to false. Now, we need to make sure the while loop is checking for the keep going variable. Okay, so now if the user input is empty, we're going to take that as a sign that the user wants to stop doing this. So I'll even write a little note. If user input is empty, they want to quit. So we set the looping variable, the thing that we're checking to see, hey, can we keep looping? And we set it to false, so now it will, next time the loop tries to go, it'll end. Otherwise, so if the user input is not empty, then we'll do the thing that we want to do. This should work. Now, hang on, how do I kill this? I think Control C. Yeah, kill the infinite looping version. Okay, so now we've got, this is a main loop that is going to help us figure out when to stop, right? So we start off, we say, hey, keep going is true to start. And then so while we want to keep going, take user input, given this prompt. If the user input is empty, kill keep going, turn it to false, and then do nothing else, right? We'll just exit the loop. Otherwise, we'll print the user input. And that's all we're doing right now. We're going to change this soon to do something more interesting than just print user input, right? So save it, run it. Enter a sentence. This sure is a sentence. Okay. Now, how about I just enter nothing? It ends. The program ends elegantly. It's quite nice. So, that is essentially the main loop. We've actually solved it, right? Otherwise, do the analysis, right? For now, we have a print statement in there. But soon, instead, we'll have the analysis function that we're going to write, right? So let's get into that. Remember that this whole situation needs to occur at the end of the document so that, you know, all the other functions that might get called have been at least defined up front. So we'll make a little space. Keep saving. Save often. It's very important. Things can always blow up, and that's fine, but you need to just make sure you hedge against it. Okay, so let's write a function called analyze text. Def analyze text. Now, I've done something wrong already. Analyze text is going to need to take that user input string, right? So we're writing a function that's going to do all this interesting analysis and printing out text to everything, but we need to be able to give it something to analyze, right? So the argument needs to be something. I'll just name it text, right? That is the name of our argument in this function. So now here's a function, and we can start doing things with text. What things are we going to do, we might ask? Well, we have a few things to do up front, right? We need to count the number of characters. We need to count a few things, right? So let's just go ahead and start printing some of this. We know right off the bat what we need to do is at least print the word stats, right? So print stats. Okay. So now this function is just going to print the word stats surrounded by bars. That's not much, but it's a start. So now let's keep going, right? What are the stats we're trying to do? How do we get at some of these stats? We know that the sentence, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, by now is what we'll be going into analyze text. Don't worry about this for now. This is not up to speed. We're gonna hook it up when it's finally done. So analyze text. We've got print stats. We've got, well, let's think about this. So let's play with some things, right? So go back to the interpreter. X equals the lazy dog, etc. Right? A short sentence version of this. So X, we have a few things at our disposal. We can call the length of X. That's 16 characters. Okay, cool. But what if we want to count the words, right? we need to be able to break it up. We talked about the split function before. So x.split, what does that show us? So it's split the lazy dog, etc. Okay, so if I want to get at the length of this, I can do length of x.split. 4. Okay. All right. So we're down in the weeds here. Let's pull back out to making something happen, right, in our function. So we want to print these 3 things: character count, word count, and word length on average. Let's do one of them. One of them is quite easy. So print. Well, not that. So we need to tab in, right? So we have stats, and we have tabbed in deeply here to make it clean. The way you do a tab is similar to the way we did a new line. You do a \t. Car count. Another \t, because we want to have it kind of line up nice and clean over there. So now we don't just put 45. We're going to put the length of the text that came in. Okay. So let's just grab this function, throw it in the interpreter, enter. So now we have a partially written analyze text function. Let's do it. Analyze text of x, right? X contains something that we could analyze. All right. The lazy dog, etc., has 16 characters in it. Hey, look, it did the tabbing. It did the tabbing. And we've got 2 lines of the output written that we want to write. Great. We can keep going. So let's keep moving. What else do we need? We need the word count. To get that, we need to split the text into something else, into a list of words. That's fine. That works. So let's do it. I want to save that to a new variable so that we can keep using it later. So let's do it. Words equals text.split. So we talked about split. We can save that now. So we've done the split, and we've saved it to the variable words. Now remember, this variable only exists during this function, so it's not going to be available all the time. So we need to do things with it now during this function's runtime. So what do we want to do with it? Same thing we just did. To get the character count, we're going to want to get the word count. So print, another tab, word count, another tab. Oh, and also, if that wasn't clear, print allows you to put in multiple arguments together, so it doesn't fuss over it. You can just keep adding arguments over and over. So we do our own custom string that's a little bit nicely formatted, and then we give it some actually computed thing, right? So length of words. Okay, let's try that one. Redefine it, and then we'll go analyze text of x. 16 characters in, well, let me spit x out again. The lazy dog, etc., right, has 16 characters, and it has 4 words. Hey, we are chopping up text and analyzing its features. We are beginning to play with the edges of how one can start to process language, right? So let's carry forward. Keep going. What else? We have also the average word length, right? That's a useful thing. So word length average, how do we get the average of a thing like that? Well, what is it? It's the number of characters per word. So we can do print word len average, and then another tab, right? So now we're going to do length of text, or sorry, length of the text, the raw text in characters, divided by the length of the words, how many words we have. Let's do that. Let's keep testing it. Copy it down, test it out. analyze text X. Average word letter count is 4. Now, that actually might be off a little bit, I've realized, because of the splitting versus the existence and non-existence of spaces, but don't worry about it for now. This is just to get you a taste of how to combine different features of text. Okay, we have done the first 3. That's great. That's pretty great. Let's do something to make our lives a little better than having to keep copy-pasting this over and over, right? Let's hook this up to the while loop, right? To the main loop. Let me write a note here that this is where the main loop begins. There. Okay. Right now, the main loop, when we run this whole program, is just going to print the user input out. Instead, we can just call analyze text on that user input. So instead of print, analyze text. So now what we're seeing is, okay, let's walk back through the main loop. We say, hey, we're going to keep going until we are not going to keep going anymore. So while we keep going, user input, we're going to grab that from the user given the prompt. We're going to say if that was empty, we're going to stop going. And otherwise, we'll do our whole analyze text routine given the user input. So now user input goes into text, and we say, okay, print the stats. The character count is the length of the text. We're going to split the text into words. The word count is the length of the words. Average letters per word, that's the length of the text divided by the length of the words. Great. So we have just done a walkthrough of the code, how it will progress, and it will keep looping until we entered something empty. Let's just run it now. The reason we've done this is to make it a little easier on our bodies. So type some text here. It did it. Okay, so now it's going to keep doing it. Or I can exit. Okay, so we've written the the script in such a way that we can test it very easily. This is important. This is how we figure out if things are working or not. So what do we need from here? Well, we've done these basic stats. That's cool. Now we need the transformations. So let's go ahead and print our helper word here, transformations. Okay. And so we keep going. New line after new line. If I run this again, it's kind of hard to actually run, hit F5 on a Mac, unfortunately. I'll give it a shot. F5. Okay. Enter a sentence. Here is a sentence. Transformations has begun. Okay, cool. We can exit. Okay. So we've got some printouts. We need to do some more printouts. What are we going to print? We're going to print and reprint this sentence over and over. Let's do it. So print. What's the first sentence version we're going to do? We are going to do lowercase. Oh, wait. Don't forget your tabs. Lowercase. Right? Makes it clean. So, we're going to take the text that was entered and call text.lower on it. Let's run it. F5 does it for me. Here is the stuff. So the text I entered was, here is the stuff, and it cleaned it. It put it down into lowercase. Do the same thing. In fact, save us a little time. Copy paste ourselves. Ta-da. Call this uppercase and upper. And while we're at it, we can go ahead and get cocky and go ahead and do title case too while we're doing it. So let's run it. Run the module. Enter a sentence. Here is a test sentence. I hope it doesn't explode. You'll see sometimes when you're typing down here in the input, it keeps thinking that like this is a special word, and you started a string here. Don't worry about that while you are running a program. It doesn't matter. Okay, look at this. So lowercase, we've got uppercase, we've got title case, we've got, because those were baked right in, right? We've now leveraged all of the free ones that we know of to do this analysis. We've got this little analyzing script to show, hey, a user entered a sentence. I can tell them some stuff about it. Blah, blah, blah. Here is the things to know. Okay. So, now what? We have 3 left. We have 3 print statements left that we need to do something with. Let's mess with that. I need to write a new function that will reverse whatever is given to it. We can just go ahead and do that. Now, where you put this doesn't actually matter too much as long as it's before the main loop, because all that will start doing things. As long as it's defined roughly at the same time as analyze text, it's okay for it to come before or after. So let's define reverse. We're going to take some text. Remember, reverse, what are we doing in reverse? We're going to take a string or a list to reverse and give it, we'll talk about the separator later. And then we're going to return the reversed string or list. Kind of like you see here with text.lower is spitting out a lowercase version of the text, right? So, yeah, let's keep going. We're gonna define a function called reverse. I'll even call it reverse text just in case that. No. I guess I'll stick to the one in the code there. If it does blow up, I'll figure it out. So, reverse the text. How might we reverse a string? Now, in a lot of languages, there are shortcuts to this, and in fact, in Python, there is a very shortcut to this, but it involves a weird notation. You can learn that on your own later. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to build it from scratch. So how do we build a reversed sentence from scratch? The way I always do it is I start with an empty string. So I'm going to call this the result. Remember, for the duration of the reverse function, this result will be, it starts empty. So how might we build a string in the first place? Let's go back to the interpreter and screw around with that. X equals nothing. Nothing. What's in X? An empty string. Well, what if I want to add a letter to X? Well, something that you may not know is that you can add strings together in Python, and it will just concatenate them. So an empty string plus A plus B is AB. Hey, okay, that works. It's a little bit strange to see the plus for for strings as opposed to, 1 plus 2, but it works. It just straight up works. So the short way to do this in Python that is very good to know about because it kind of reads very cleanly is, here's X, right? X is an empty string. Let's say I want to add something to X. I can use the operator append. X plus equals A, B, C, D, E, F. What's going to be in X? A, B, C, D, E, F. Now what if I do it again? What's going to be in X? A, B, C, D, E, F, A, B, C, D, E, F. So we're seeing that when you use the plus equals, it's basically saying, instead of overwriting what's in there, add something to it. It's actually a shorthand for saying X equals X plus A, right? So now if I see what's in X, it has an A at the end. Same thing works for, so let's say Y equals 2. If I want to add something to Y, I would do Y equals Y plus 2, right? So what's in Y? 4. the shorthand is just a much nicer way to think about this. You're saying y plus equals 2. Add 2 to y. Y plus equals 10. Add 10 to y. Same deal goes on with x in the strings world. So x plus equals abacababa. Oh, I blew it up. X plus equals abacababa. So what's in x? A whole bunch of junk. Now, why have I shown you this? This one is a sort of a key fundamental cool thing that you can do. You need to... The idea here is that we can construct strings based on other strings. And this is the nice, clean way to do it in Python. So we start with an empty string, and we're going to step through the text we've received and add the letters in reverse. Now, how do we do that? Let's look at it. So we're going to use a for loop, right? But we're going to use a for loop over the indexes. So real quick rundown again. So we have x down here. Let's do a for loop for letter in x, print letter, right? And that just prints all of them on their own lines, right? It's just doing print each one at a time. That's the simple way to write a for loop. We can also do the indexed way. So for I in range 0 through length of x. What's that doing? Okay, slow down. Remember from the previous lectures. So we are going to iterate over the range of numbers between 0 and the full length of x. So for that, now we'll do print I as well as x's letter at the position I, right? So x has abacababa, all these things. Wait, is that still what's in there? No. It has A, B, C, D, E, F, right? So the first thing it'll do is it's going to print the number 1, or the number 0, which is the first value in the indexes of x. And then it's also going to grab the value out of x. Do it again. Okay, so we're seeing when we print the index that we're looping with, as well as the value inside of x at that index, we get 0 is A, 1 is B, all the way up to 22 is B. Okay, so that's a lot all at once, but we've talked about it before. Let's implement it. Let's do it. Now, let's just do it the basic way. This reverse function is actually not going to reverse anything at all. Let's just construct a string that is the exact same as the original string. We're going to waste some effort, but we will build the scaffolding to do things a little bit better. So let's do the for loop. For I in range 0 through the length of the text we received. What are we going to do each time? Oh, wait, I forgot to close that paren. Oh, goodness. There we go. For I in range 0 through the length of the text, what are we going to do? We're going to add result plus equals text sub I. Okay, what does this mean? For each index of the text we received, right, kind of like this, we're going to say, hey, add the value that's in there, so the text at location I, so to start, it would be A here. Take the value that's in there and then add it to our result. In the end, we're going to return the result. Okay, let's try this. Does it work? We're going to write our function. And we're going to say reverse the string hello there. Hey, okay, we did it. It doesn't look like we did anything at all, right? Because we didn't, it's just the same string that went in and out. But you can see here that we returned what used to be an empty string. We rebuilt based on what was in text at each position. So how can we leverage this same idea but go in reverse. Well, you could do the negative indexing trick we showed before, where we say negative I. So instead of getting at I, the ith version, we can go from the end of the list of the object, and we can output it there. So, sorry, I was distracted for a moment. So we'll now reverse, or sorry, we need to try this out, right? So reverse that text. Oh, I defined it. Okay, so now we're going to reverse. Hello there. Well, we're close. What's the problem? So when I is 0, we go to position -0. Oops, that's actually a problem. We need to get to position -1 to start. The period is at -1 at the end of the array, right? So we can just adjust these, right? We're going to start at 1 and we'll shift it all over by 1, right? Go until length of text +1. Okay, so let's try that version. Okay, now we will reverse this text. Hey, can you tell why this works? We have this list of characters, a string. We go in, we say, I'm going to make a new list of characters, a new string. And for each position in the old string, at least for each number of positions, I'm going to start at 1, and we're going to go from the end of that list here. Okay, we've done a little trick. We've done some negative indexing, but that's commonplace in Python. It's very good to have that, a little bit of a working understanding of it. We've avoided some off by 1 issues here. So we've got, we start at 1 and we end at 1+. So if you think about it, we will get up to the value of the length of the text, subtract it from itself, and you get 0, which is the first position. This is how we end up with the capital H at the end down here. Okay, so this function that's going to take a bunch of text, and reverse it, it works. We've seen it work. It did the thing we wanted. So now it's ready for use in our other function. Let's do the same thing we've done before. Tab reverse. What's the exact words we used here? Reversed. Tab in. So now we're going to call our new function reverse on the text we received. Let's try it. Enter a sentence. This is quite the sentence. Reversed. It worked. That's good. That's good stuff. Now, I added a little bit here to kind of push the boundary of this. We want reverse to be able to work either at the letter level or at the word level. Well, let's think about if I just threw in a bunch of words here, what would happen? Instead of looking at one letter at a time, it would look at one word at a time. Would that work? Let's try it. Oh, come on, don't highlight that much stuff. Come on, bud. We're going to call this word rev, right? Reverse, instead of reversing text, let's try reversing words. What happens? So let's rerun it. Here is a bunch of text. Oh, not quite. What happened? What's the issue here that's kind of making this fumble? Text of bunch is here. This works. It's doing the job, but it's kind of munging it all together. It's kind of squishing it together. The reason is when we split words up into words, we split the text up into words, all the spaces went away. So what we can do is we can retrofit this function a little bit to say, okay, wait. Sometimes we need to add a separator in here. So we can define, like we saw before, an optional parameter called separator, or sep, I like to call these things, and give it a default value of just nothing. We're not going to do anything special. Here's the trick. So now you can add separator to each one of the bits of text that come in that is going into your constructed sentence. You can add sep. By default, when you call this reverse function, sep will be set to nothing. It'll be an empty string. So nothing will really happen here. But if you want to call it, if you want to add a separator, you can. So now let's fix our function up here, words, and we'll give it the separator, the space, right? Just one space. Let's try that. The things and the things and the things. Look at that. It worked. It gave us the spaces that we needed. It successfully joined all the spaces together, and it's in reverse order. Great. Fantastic, even. So this gives us the ability to it's a flexible function. It's able to take a default version, which is designed only to work on normal letters, or we can give it a little bit of something else to make it work with words. In fact, we can give it all kinds of stuff, right? If I do that and I run it that way, it's going to look funky. It's going to look funky. See? We've added separator in here over and over and over. It's just good because this concept of optional parameters comes up a lot, and it's good to kind of know roughly how it works. In this case, it's just saying, hey, by default, this is going to be nothing. But every time I'm still going to add it to our string. So let's go back to our space and get that done. We are almost done. We have one more function to write because we need to develop mock case. Okay, so we've done reverse. We've done everything we need to. We're almost there. We've almost got this function taking user input and chopping it up all the ways we've been asked to. Now let's try mock case. This is the one you can use to mock your enemies and allies alike. So, mock case is the name of our function. What does it take again? Well, I've given you some tips. It takes one string, and it's going to convert it to mock case, right? We'll just call it text, as we have before. Okay. Once again, we're going to reconstruct the string from scratch. So, mock case, well, not mock case. What am I doing? We're going to make a result that's going to be empty, right? And what are we going to do? In the same way, we're going to step through and we're going to ask at each letter, what should I add, right? So let's recreate another loop, kind of like the first version of the loop we did in reverse, where we stepped through one at a time, right? So we'll do it again. For I in range 0 through the length of the text. So again, I know I write these things fast. I want you to just follow along briefly. For some variable name that I'm going to use in this loop and only in this loop, in this set of things, in this case, we're creating a range of values between 0 and the length of the text, not including the actual length value. So if I did, for instance, let me exit that, range 0 through 10. Oh, it doesn't show it. For I in range 0 through 10, print I. Notice it doesn't go up to 10. It stops just shy, because that's how strings work. If I try to go to the end of a string, so say x equals a, b, c, d, e, f, x sub 0 we know is going to be a, right? The length of x is 6. So if we do x sub 6, it blows up because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there is no thing at position labeled 6. Okay, don't focus too much on that. Just getting back to what we're doing here. We are stepping through the text that we received. We are looking at each possible value in that text, each letter in that text. So for some number in the range of the indexes in that text, what are we going to do? Remember, we're trying to build result, right? We're going to build it up from scratch. So what can we do? We can say result. Well, no, we have to ask a question first. Remember, mock case is this thing, this whole thing. How do we determine whether to do uppercase or lowercase for each letter? Because we can do that. That's great. That's easy to do. I can show you right here, a dot upper, right? So if x equals a, x dot upper is going to be a, capital A, right? That's what we're going to do. Ultimately, we're going to add alternating upper and lowercase to result. What we can do to detect that is we can check if the number, the position that we're on is even, right? So for I, remember we're stepping through it using I. We're looking at each number value in the string. Again, so like, well, we'll do it later. So for each index in the string, I want to ask, is this thing even? How do we do that? Well, I'm going to introduce you to the modulus operator. 2%. So percent just basically means, hey, divide these two numbers and tell me what the remainder is. That sounds like a lot if you haven't done that kind of stuff in a little while. So here, let's think about it like this. 5% 2, right? If I divide 5 by 2, 2 is going to go into it twice, 1, 2, and 4, and then there's going to be a remainder left of 1. That's what modulus shows, and that's how we can check if it's odd or even, because 6% 2 is 0, because 2 goes into it evenly, cleanly, right? 6. We can also look at 6% or 6 mod 3. 3 goes into 6 evenly, cleanly, right? So when you're checking for evenness, it's easy. Just think of it as percent 2, mod 2. So 50 mod 2. That's going to be what? It goes in cleanly. They divide cleanly. There's no remainder, so the remainder will be 0. That's what we can check to see if something is even or odd. So if that's the information we want to use, let's go ahead and just define a new variable for it. We don't have to do this, but we can just to make it a little cleaner. Evenness, we can say, or maybe is even. So equals. So I% 2. But we want that to be so rather. Remainder, we'll call it, right? Just so it's clear mathematically. Okay, so this is for each value in the string, for each position in the string, right? Here's the first one, position 0. We want that to come out lowercase. So we say, as long as the remainder is 0, even, right? We're going to do things in lowercase. So how do we do that? We do an if statement. If remainder equals 0, meaning this was cleanly divided by 2, we can assume this is an even number. We're going to add to result plus equals the letter, right? So text sub I, the letter that we're on, because I is our index that we're moving through in the loop. The text value at I dot lower. Okay. Otherwise, else, Now, thankfully, with evenness, there's only one other option. So if it's not even, it's going to be odd. So that's fine. We can just do, oops. Oh, shoot. I keep doing this to you. I'm so sorry. If does not have parens in Python. So if the remainder is 0, then we'll add a lowercase letter. Otherwise, we'll add an uppercase letter. This is it. Once we've done that, once we've stepped through the string over and over and over, we're going to return result. So remember, it's similar to reverse. We're going to call this, give it some text, it's going to do its job, and it's going to return back some new version of that text. Let's test it real quick, just on its own. Make sure it makes sense. Okay, so if I call mock case on the quick brown dog, etc. The quick brown dog, etc. We did it. Now, this is not the easiest thing in the world to create from scratch. I'm hoping you're seeing that this. None of it is wild magic, right? That's one of the things I note. Nothing is magic. Code is just text. And you have seen a lot of these things. I gave you some new things today just because I think it's a wasted opportunity not to have you do something that sort of meshes with the things you're already learning as you're going. But yeah, so I think that we're done. We need to call mock case in our main. Sorry, I'm moving too fast. We need to call mock case in our main thing up here. Let's do it. I screwed up the copy. I'm just copying to save myself time, and then sometimes that ends up costing you time, so beware yourself. So reversed, target things, mock case, call it on the text, on whatever was sent to you. Okay. Let's do a quick sanity check. What's going to happen? We're going to set our keep going. So first, the script runs top to bottom, right? So we define analyze text. We define reverse. We define mock case. These are the things that we'll all be calling each other, different functions that will use each other for different things. Okay, finally we get to the bottom where the main loop starts. Keep going starts at true so that the loop can continue until it's told not to. So while we keep going, we're going to grab user input from the input function given this prompt, enter a sentence. If it's empty, we will say, okay, so if the user input equal nothing, then set keep going to false and don't do anything else, right? We're not going to then do what's in the else because this if statement branches us off. So if that's the case, keep going is false and we don't do anything else. Otherwise, run your analyze text function. Okay, let's go to the top. Analyze text is going to proceed linearly. It's going to print stats. It's going to get the character count as the length of the text. It's going to define a temporary variable to hold the words that we split up, right? So we can get the length of the words. We're going to divide the length of the text by the length of the words to get the average character count. Okay, and then we're going to print out some transformations. Lowercase, we get the lower, we get the upper, we get the title. We wrote our reverse function. So reverse function here, it creates an empty result. It's going to take our text and it's going to step through it one letter at a time, but backwards. So it's going to index into the end of the array, the list of letters, the string, at the end of the string using this negative indexing trick, and it's going to go backwards from there until we have a reversed string. And we made it a little bit more flexible in that it can, the separator it will automatically be empty so that as we add it to things when it's not wanted, it won't matter, right? But if we do need it for something like doing words properly, then we can add a space there. Okay, so back out, we see, hey, we print the reverse of the text of just the letter by letter. We we print out the words in reverse, so we call reverse on words. Get that. And then we are going to do mock case, which is our fancy mocking internet case that we've pulled in here to mirror the way that lowercase, uppercase, title case work. How do we do that? Well, same way, we're going to take the text in, we're going to set aside an empty result string, we're going to step through the text in normal order, right, for some 0 to the length of the text. We're going to grab the remainder of the index just so we can check if it's even or odd. And then if it's even, we're going to do a lowercase letter. If it's odd, we'll do uppercase. And then we construct our result string, return the result, print it out. Whew! That is the thing. If we run this, we are up to speed. Enter a sentence. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Let's compare this output to what we were trying for. Character count is 45. Word count is 9. Word length is 5. Lowercase, uppercase, title case, reverse by letter, reverse by word, and mocking case. It will take things over and over until we enter an empty string and it elegantly quits. This is a text interface program. It takes input from the user, does something to it, and outputs it. You, having followed along with this, I'll give you a quick, so you can freeze frame and pause the video and see most of it at once. Perhaps not all of it. Here, I'll get rid of some white space so it's a little easier to grab. Just a bit. Don't get rid of too much white space. You want to be able to see things. This is our full script. Reference it. You know, I hope you can follow along with this. You know, we did this non-linearly. We didn't just go write one letter at a time, top to bottom. We built it. We built things that used each other, that supported each other. You know, it's like kind of like building a house, right? You don't just... There is a proper order of things, right? For a house, you can't build the roof before you build the basement, but the things all have to connect to each other. And you don't necessarily work on everything in just the obvious order. You don't build a house left to right? You build the foundation, and then you keep going. So this is the assignment. You could literally write every letter of this letter by letter, and as long as it works, you're good. That's the point of these walkthroughs. Is I think some people would rather just try this on their own and swing for it than watch this entire walkthrough. But for those of you that wanted to follow along, you're good. Just do it now. Make sure it's done. Make sure it works. Don't submit something that's broken. That's only a headache for you and me. Just make sure it works. And if it doesn't, let me know. Ask me questions, right? So if you get stuck somewhere here and you had trouble following along with some of this, contact me. Come to my office hours. I'm around. Yeah. So also, I'm not going to post the text of this anywhere. You have to, if you really want this, you have to watch the video. And if you really want to just lazily copy it, you'll have to do it letter by letter. So really more what I want you to do is play around. Try to do it the same order of operations I did. Some of these things are a little alien, so you might have to refer exactly to what I did, right? Doing this kind of starting off by one thing. But again, that's the point, is that you can see how I've done it. You can try it yourself. Try it on toy variables here in the interpreter. Just like mess around. Okay, I've gone on long enough. Hopefully these won't all be this long, but yeah, that's it. Go ahead. Be healthy. Enjoy, and I bid you good luck on your first mucking around with Python if this is your first time. And anybody else, you already know what you're doing. So go for it. You got it. All right. That's it. Yeah, just turn it on Blackboard whenever you're ready. Again, similar to everything else, if there's no set due date, just get to it eventually. All right. That's it. Take care.